as a channel, Iceberg's mainly about long, rambling top 10 lists based on empirical data from noted sources. However, that kind of video is hard to make and probably even harder to watch. I wanted to loosen my collar a little, try out a few games, and maybe make a bit of a comment on them. My name's not important, and here's 5 free games about race. Real Racing 3. Most good racing games for mobile fall into one of two camps. The Asphalt camp, with arcade-style power-up gameplay that doesn't require much in the way of elbow flailing to steer, or those of the CSR variety of tap now to be a racer gameplay. Real Racing 3, as the name implies, is an actual factual full-on simcade racing game for mobile. Controls are customisable, allowing for the aforementioned elbow flailing tilt control, my personal favourite, on-screen touch or Bluetooth joypad controls. Although despite the name there's no mistaking this for a true simulation, the driving experience is a lot of fun and cars handle noticeably different from one another. The amount of content is potentially overwhelming, and if you're into cars it can be extremely tempting to put some of your hard-earned money into acquiring the time-limited event cars, but for the casual player, with some self-control, you can get a reasonable number of cars just by playing the game. Despite being more than a few years old now, I confess to having pumped an awful lot of time into Real Racing 3 on my old 1st gen iPad Retina, the game still looks decent despite its mobile origins, with realistic licensed car models and familiar real-world racetracks, and runs nicely on even lower powered devices. Real Racing 3 comes in highly recommended. Forza Motorsport 6 Apex. If, like me, you're disappointed that Real Racing 3 doesn't run natively on PC, Microsoft Studios have you covered. Forza 6 came to Windows in a freemium version called Apex back in 2016, but is still, in my opinion, the most slick, polished real-world racing experience you can get without forking out cash. Coming from the simulation arm of the Forza franchise, Apex has a modest selection of cars for you to earn via the free-to-play grind, varying in performance from hot hatches to cruise missiles on wheels. What should hopefully be coming across in the video is the sheer visual quality on display. This was the first Forza title launched on PC, and developers Turn 10 seemingly spent a lot of effort on optimising for a wide range of hardware. On my pretty beastly graphics card with everything turned up, I'm getting just 60 to 80 frames per second at 1440p. In return, Forza delivers some extremely pretty graphics, with beautiful lighting and tons of detail. If you feel the need for speed in your frame rates as well as in your virtual vehicle, there are dynamic scaling options to allow the game to reduce quality whenever frame rates start to drop. Forza 6 Apex brings AAA grade racing, in an admittedly cut down version, for zero cost, and for that reason it definitely deserves your attention. Now, I was about to draw a line under this video until I realised that the premium DLC content for the game is no longer available, and there's some speculation online that the game may no longer be supported by Microsoft. I created a new Microsoft account to test with, and it seems like the game can currently still be downloaded from within the Microsoft app, but you might want to rush as Forza Apex might not be sticking around. Vecter. Changing gears for a second, Vecter is a new endless racer currently available on Steam for free, due to come out of early access in September. Embracing a nostalgia-baiting aesthetic, from the neon Vector graphics to the DOS font used in the interface, Vecter is sort of like the Tetris effect of racing games, setting its almost hypnotic gameplay against some electro tunes that had me wiggling my thumbstick to the beat. During the setup phase, I was a little bemused by the option to watch YouTube in the background, but after some time playing, I kind of get the idea, as Vector's the kind of zen experience you could conceivably enjoy while catching up on, say, some top 10 gaming lists, for example. Tracks are simply straight lines, and the game's challenge comes from avoiding dynamic obstacles and acquiring power-ups. There are no other cars on the track, because first and foremost you're racing against yourself. What's perhaps best about Vecter, at least in the context of this video, is the lack of monetization. Unlike pretty much every other game here, there's no cooldowns that can be skipped or cars that can be bought with a microtransaction. While developer Tyrannosus is accepting Patreon donations, Vecter is as free as a free-to-play game currently gets. RaceRoom. If you're aware of more hardcore sims like iRacing or Assetto Corsa, you may well know what to expect from RaceRoom. By far the most in-depth game I've covered in this video, RaceRoom gives you a plethora of tweaking options over every aspect of your car. Although there's a fair amount of automation for the casual driver, RaceRoom definitely wants you to know that if you wanted to take the absolute greatest amount of control over your automobile, you could do it. RaceRoom gives you access to dozens of motorsports class cars and tracks to race them on, though only a handful of them are available to those who don't want to pay. Individual cars and tracks can be unlocked reasonably cheaply, or bundles can be purchased for, well, a bit of a discount at least. So, free to play in this instance is more like free to try. This 2011 racing sim's visuals don't particularly impress compared to, say, Forza Apex among the free-to-play games, or Project Cars 2 in the paid arena, and at over 40GB it's a pretty big commitment to download, but if you want to try out an example of a game near the top of its genre, then you won't find better than this. TrackMania 2020. Another game that stands out from the normal racing crowd is TrackMania, the latest incarnation of a series that dates back to 2003. This reboot takes the original game's core elements of fast, stylised racing on customisable tracks and gravity-defying physics, and throws in some modern, online and free-to-play mechanics. Each track can be played solo or against ghost laps from players in your local area, but however you play, your ultimate opponent is yourself. After completing your first attempt at a track, the game prompts you to improve. You are challenged to play the same track again, this time against ghosts of your previous lap time, and try to do better. Default tracks are challenging in ways that won't necessarily be intuitive to experienced racers. Some have square corners like something from Mario Kart 64. Others are slippery luges, and others have ramps, jumps and loops. Overall, TrackMania is incredibly fun, desperately challenging and infuriatingly addictive, and definitely worth all of the no money it costs to buy. So I'm learning that the phrase "about race" doesn't mean what I think it means. This of course has huge ramifications for my understanding of current events. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, kindly do the usual YouTube things if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you next time.